We will start the Manchester-Essex Regional School District School Committee meeting on December 10th, 2025. We'll kick off our business meeting before we switch over to our budget here. So to kick things off, per usual, we will start with any public comment. Do not see anyone in person, so if you join us online and you have any public comments you'd like to share this evening, please write your name and full address in the chat, and we'll give you a moment to do that. All right. Not seeing, is the chat open? Maria?
The chat is open. Yeah.
Okay. Not seeing anything in the chat, we will move on. We do not have a consent agenda tonight, right?
No.
Okay. For subcommittee reports, do we have any subcommittees that have met in the past 7 days?
Our subcommittee did not meet, but we have a newsletter draft that we put forward to you all from Pam and myself for your approval for
So I will make a motion to accept the December newsletter as shared out earlier. Excellent. Any questions or discussion?
Good.
All right.
Yeah, look at did you see my last email? Just
I did, and I'll pass that on.
okay,
And
those are mine.
make a little edit, so it's nothing substantive, but it's a good. Welcome.
welcome.
And I guess my question would be, how was the process for, if we can live with this process, we can continue it.
It was fine for me.
I didn't have to do anything, so I think that's great. I did read it though.
Thank you for drafting.
No problem.
Yeah, thank you.
Great.
Yep. All right, all those in favor? That's unanimous, thank you. And Teresa, you're not able to vote because you're not the person, sorry.
The building.
There was a meeting last night,
It was not a subcommittee meeting, but the community meeting.
community meeting.
Yep. And a quick update from it. It went well.
It went well. The architect just ran through the various scenarios. People asked some questions. They went through the process. Yeah.
Biggest highlight was the tour of the memorial building, I think.
What were some like highlights or takeaways, like what you were hearing for questions or comments or anything of note?
People noted that tennis is very important in this town, so they want to preserve the tennis courts as they can, and they're hoping that if they can't preserve the tennis courts, they can play at the MAC. So I heard that one. Someone also pointed out that there's a lot of value in the land at the current Essex building site, and so he was suggesting that if we consider this option, moving the kids to that school. Otherwise, they just talked about things that would be covered, through MSBA and things that would not be covered. And I think the architect, again, just did a great job of overviewing the various scenarios that are under consideration at this point.
There was some discussion about the impact of having Essex students here, both for the building and the lot and traffic and impact on student culture. So I think that tended to be that focus.
I think someone suggested reaching out to the Essex parents to get an understanding of like what their day-to-day looks like, commuting back and forth, or even if they would even consider that, or just to get a sense of like what that would look like for them. So
But in terms of students commuting back and forth, there's parents or
parents driving their students back and forth already as it is, because if there'd be a lot, you know, if they were moved here, it'd be a lot more of that. So if I guess they find that it's already difficult to begin with, it's gonna be more difficult if you have elementary school students here.
I would say it's difficult.
Well,
That's just in the first.
understood.
I think that's what maybe we have to do. So like if, in terms of like the order of operations, we're counting on the school building committee to vet all of those technical options. They're gonna start to see some broad ranges of finance associated with each of them. And if they recommend as the most cost-effective solution that supports our program, being one of those two configurations, then all of those types of questions would be vetted for this. Because you'll have to consider their recommendation and determine whether or not you're gonna vote to redistrict and vote to go for a regional agreement. So once we hit that, if we hit that stage, then I think we kind of go back and have to redo some of the focus groups and the public input opportunities for the culture and academic side of things. But right now, we don't know that SBC is going to put forward any of those options as the preferred choice. So that's what's going to get distilled in January, February.
Procedurally, in terms of the value of the land and that point, the land is owned by Essex already, is that correct? And so if Essex Elementary were not there, it's not as though Essex gets some lump payment. It's just that they have ability to.
Right. They have the responsibility to either demolish or repurpose the facility that's on.
Yeah, I think likely what would happen is they sit on it and then put out an RFP for someone to come in and redevelop it. I'll just take the list. Proposal.
Maybe.
Yeah, I'm just saying that's how it typically goes.
We've got some laws.
All right, thank you, John.
Yep.
The negotiations team did not meet, but we did have a collaboration meeting.
The finance subcommittee, yes.
Yeah.
We did, and we provided a very brief overview, since a number of them said in our last meeting, of the tentative budget. So Michelle and Pam walked through that. There were a few questions about that. But we posed the questions that we identified in our last school committee meeting. The town reps did share responses to a number of those. So Teresa, may be worth taking a listen to that. Studio 1623 was there,
They were.
so it's available.
It was reported.
Yes. And it should be good sound quality and whatnot. They did respond to those questions. And I expect, we may, depending on who's here tonight, we may follow up on some of those who are brought up.
Any questions? Thank you, Jake. And the negotiations team did not meet. So moving on to.
Can I just say one more thing?
Sure.
They did also review the final version of the Chapter 70 letter. That was, we submitted that to Desi this morning, copying all the chairs of the 3 boards. And we got a response from Desi, acknowledging its submission. So thank you all for contributing to that and your patience in pulling it together with the input of all 3 boards.
Thank you for spearheading that.
Thank you, Jay.
Yep.
Big effort.
Thank you. And so I believe we can move on to our continued business.
We're actually right on schedule. I put in 30 minutes in case there was a lot of public comment. So, there might be some online, so put up the opportunity to speak on the art requirements.
Yes, so if for anyone that has joined us online, if there's any public comment, and especially public comment on adding a graduation requirement for the arts at Manchester-Essex Regional School District, please feel free to comment on that. If you do have a public comment, please put your name and full address in the chat and we will call on you in order.
While we're waiting for people to do that, just to recap, the high school has proposed adding a half-year arts requirement. So within their 4 years of time at Manchester-Essex High School, they'll need to take at least one semester art course to meet their graduation requirements. It's an incremental approach. We assume that when the new state graduation requirements come out, we may need to increase that to a year, but at this point, I think it's a good first step. I think that was the thinking that Julie had when this was brought forward last year and now reintroduced this year. We have plenty of arts courses and opportunity for kids to meet this requirement within the existing framework of the high school. So there's no financial component to this addition.
And just to be explicit about what we're voting on, there's also one minor word change on the 10 hours per year of community service that will now have the word suggested in front of it. Suggested 10 hours, still 40 hours. It doesn't change the expectation, but based on our conversation last time, Julie wanted a little bit of flexibility on, and the reality is students do that flexibly anyway. So it's going to be suggested 10 hours per year.
And I think she said counts.
So what we're
That's
doing
right,
right now is
students.
just public input on the art. So we don't have to vote tonight. We can commit those changes to writing and bring it back so everybody can see.
I thought we were voting tonight. I thought this was the purpose of
We
tonight.
could, but if that's open-ended, I don't have Julie here right now to say that that's how she interpreted it and that's what she intends to do. I know it was feedback and they're working on all the feedback. So I would hesitate to vote if there's an expectation that that's tied into it. Tonight, there's no harm in waiting till the 13th because that's when the program of studies is coming back.
And there's one vote, and the vote is to
For the
approve the
graduation.
graduation requirements, not specifically on the art. The vote will be on the overall graduation.
But are we gonna vote today on the arts requirement? Or can we vote? Or-
I think you could vote on the art and we could bring back the total with the actual written changes.
Mhm.
Let's just wait and do it all at once so we have the whole thing in front of
I
us.
think that just makes more sense to see it clean.
Okay, so I misspoke then. We're only talking about art.
Well, this is the public hearing on the art.
Yep.
Do we do anything to acknowledge the letters that we received? Like the number of letters and their positions, or do we don't
I can say that I
read aloud the letter?
We don't have to read aloud the letters, all the letters. If you received letters that didn't go to the full group or only like if they came into me, I responded to all but one, I believe. So I think there are 4 that came to me and the whole group. You know, there were 4 affirmative letters that came in. I don't know if anyone else received independent letters.
Before.
Yeah, that was just the first man
Prior one, I think, right? Didn't we receive one?
going into the meeting
Yeah,
last time
yeah.
for 5. All right. Is there anyone online who is hoping to make comment on the proposed arts requirement?
And we can't move on to the next agenda item until 6:45.
Shall we recess? We could take a recess and a stretch break and
Okay, we will take a recess, short recess, and a stretch break, and we will rejoin in 20 minutes. Thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. We are going to convene to our FY27 tentative budget.
here.
Hearing, yes. Thank you, everyone, for joining us this evening online and both in person. I will transition directly to Pam, who will provide us an overview of the FY27 tentative budget. For everyone joining us online, this is an early first version and look at the budget. in the first of two public hearings that we will have on the budget this season. So with that, Pam, please go ahead.
Sure. We'll do just a brief presentation and an overview of the budget. This will be the third time we're probably sharing it with the same group of people. I'm gonna reiterate what Chris led in with, which is the tentative budget is the early look. The goal is to let our community partners know and interested budget followers know kind of how things are shaping up for the next year, with respect to our largest budget drivers. All with the caveat that everything at this point is, for the most part, an educated estimate based on either past performance or early information we may be getting from either our community partners or local agencies. So while these numbers are certainly going to change, we anticipate that this is going to be our high water mark for the year, with an additional caveat that we are in very unpredictable times. So, we're assuming among our assumptions is the assumption that there's no significant change in federal or state level financing. If those things present themselves, I think we'll have to address them at that time. So this assumes relatively similar circumstances to last year. The tentative budget is presented as a maintenance of effort budget or a level services budget. Essentially, we are providing for the same scope of programming, class sizes, course offerings, and services as provided this year. We've seen our plan at this point is to hold staffing flat with the exception of an additional 0.3 FTE or full-time equivalent increase in speech and language pathologists. This comes from every year. Sometimes we have the person on the payroll side. Sometimes we're using contracted services. It often, sometimes our needs change throughout the year. Sometimes the staffing availability changes and we have to resort to a company to provide the service. So this number does fluctuate over time, but this is our early look, our only anticipated change for staffing for next year. All this is to say that a maintenance of effort budget allows us to continue to move forward on our strategic and school improvement plans. And just because we're holding the level of staffing the same doesn't mean staffing will be in the same seats or doing the same things next year that they are this year. I'll give the example. Last year, we reduced a staffing position at the high school, but moved that resource to the elementary school, Memorial School, to address a high priority need. So over the next few months, all of the directors and principals will be working on their budgets and managing their staff for next year, and we'll be looking for trade-offs if certain priorities or needs emerge throughout the year. And I think some good, well, depending on your perspective, enrollment, I think is good news. It looks like we are starting to plateau and slowly build back enrollment, which is consistent with the MSBA enrollment study, which shows us plateauing and then growing slowly over time, with an anticipated potential 250 students at Essex Elementary over the next 10 years. So those are some of the pieces of context for the budget. I'll turn it over to Michelle to run through the basic numbers of the budget.
Thank you. So overall, our FY 27 tentative budget has an increase of 7.39% or $2.4 million. It breaks out the revenue outlook. We are looking for an increase of 3.87%, which is a total of 169,000. Most of that is in the Chapter 70 category. Small amount is in the interest income. And other than that, we're planning on our revenues being flat. On the expenditure side of it, our salaries are estimated to increase 5.1% or just over $1 million. That includes 2.5% COLA for all. It also includes steps, salary advancements, and lane changes, and any increase in longevity. And it does include that 0.3 FTE for the speech and language pathologist. Insurance and benefits has an increase of 16.65%. 1.1 million. And the budget includes 20% increase for insurance renewal for our health insurance premiums. This is based off the estimate that is being given to cities and towns from Maya, as well as discussions with our insurance broker. We're going to really start diving in with our insurance broker in the next week. That also does, it's not up there, but our OPEB contribution, because of their rate estimates, we're estimating that it has an increase of 14%. And our Essex retirement assessment, which actually was released this week, has an increase of 9%. Curriculum and legal costs, that includes 25,000 for anticipated legal costs for our negotiations. Both of our contracts with NETA, Unit A and Unit B, the teachers and teaching assistants, will be expiring in June of 27. We will start negotiations next fall. We increased it by 25,000 in the legal budget, and we increased $40,000 in a pilot for curriculum of science and math curriculum materials for implementation the following year. Technology, we have an increase of $26,000. This represents an iPad lease to replace all of our iPad devices that were obtained during the COVID years. These devices are no longer upgradable and no longer able to run our assessment program for next year. So we need to replace all those iPad devices, and those are primarily grades K through 2. Special education, we actually have a decrease of 2% in this category, which is due to a decrease in the number of students that are currently outplaced. Certainly these costs still increase. Our contracted services are still increasing. Our program needs are increasing, but the overall tuition, which is a good chunk of that budget, is decreasing due to the enrollment. And one other thing I did want to mention, we do have facilities and utilities increase, which is very small, 3%. And then other category includes the legal that I spoke about, and a $90,000 increase for transportation, as our transportation contract is expiring June 30th. So we will be going out to bid in the next couple weeks, a month, for a new transportation provider or a new contract. So we anticipate that going up as well. So those are primarily the big areas of where our increases are for this year. We have 7 months remain before we get to the beginning of the fiscal year. So we are doing some educated guesses, and hope that we don't have a lot of surprises in the coming months.
So over the next few months, we're just going to we'll continue to monitor. We're going to continue to work on potential strategies and solutions for our larger growth areas, particularly insurance. We informed you last time when we went through the budget that we have gone through a process of vetting requests for proposals for healthcare advisors or brokers. And through the process, we actually re-signed with our current broker, USI. I think the learning that took place as part of that process is that it's really about working on our side of things to be more open and creative to innovative solutions, which we are certainly always open to innovative solutions, but it means also bringing our association along, because the innovative solutions, for the most part, are going to require agreement and potential reorganization of the contract. So whether we get many gains this year or more do learning this year and then go into our negotiations next year with some ideas and proposals, that will remain to be seen over the next few months. But I think it's an area that we all are aware needs some attention, and we can do, we should do everything we can do at the local level with full understanding that we are a small cog in a very big wheel. of a broken system. So over the next few months, we'll have another opportunity for public hearing on February the 3rd, with hopefully resolving and coming up with an adopted budget by February 10th. Every meeting in January will have a budget component, if not a full dedication to budget workshop. So there's an opportunity for people to share input at the beginning of each of those meetings in January. And obviously, you can always send an email to share concerns or ask questions. That's an overview of the tentative budget. So we're here to hear questions and concerns. See what questions?
Actually, one thing we did not touch upon, and we touched upon at the school committee meeting, but for the public, in case someone new is joining us. This budget includes level reserves compared to last year. So it includes using $600,000 of E&D, which roughly our balance certified this year is estimated to be about $1 million. And it uses $150,000 of OPEB contributions. This is the same amount as last year. So basically, when you're looking at the budget increase, that's apples to apples. With that, overall, with those level of reserves being used, our increase is 2.2 million or 7.94%. With Manchester by the Sea going up 7.86% and Essex going up 8%. This tentative budget were to move forward in the form it currently stands.
And if there's curiosity, while not directly related to the FY27 budget, I'll just note that the Essex building project is moving right along on time and on schedule in terms of decision making. We are currently in the middle of the feasibility phase, and we are preparing the preliminary design report. So what we've been working on this fall is looking at physical sites, and ruling in and ruling out physical sites. And we are beginning to develop options around the configurations cited in the feasibility study. Of course, one being staying right where we are and renovating or rebuilding Essex Elementary School for 250 students on the current site. But we're also, as part of this investigation process, looking at the other configurations that were noted in the feasibility study, which would be dividing the Essex students into two groups, having 4 and 5 attend Manchester Memorial School, and renovating or rebuilding a facility in Essex for pre-K 3. And the other option we're studying is taking all of the Essex students and moving them to the Manchester site and building an addition on the Manchester Memorial School. The two configurations that include movement to Manchester would require a school committee vote to redistrict, and then a school committee vote to amend the regional agreement. So that would kick off a whole separate process, which would put the Essex Elementary Building project on pause until those items are resolved. I mentioned them as points of interest for people who are curious about how this process is unfolding. The SBC meetings, if we're not meeting in school committee on a Tuesday night, we're meeting with the building committee. They are all being broadcast. They're being taped and posted to 1623, and all the materials are online. Our hope is that by mid to late January, we'll have identified a pathway. And once we've identified that pathway or preferred approach, that will get more fully developed into actual designs on the site that start to look like the building. And there'll be another series of community meetings for people to come and offer their input on what they like and what they don't like and what they'd like to see in the design. So lots of exciting things coming up in the new year, with the hope that we followed almost an identical calendar to the Memorial Building project and find ourselves at a town meeting next fall to approve a design and a debt exclusion to fund the project. So numbers, design will all be starting to roll out late winter and spring. So very exciting.
Question. Michelle, did I hear you say that there's an additional $90,000 in the transportation budget because you're going out to bid next year?
Yes,
So there's a projection based on what others are seeing in the market.
it's the projection of what buses cost right now. So we had asked.
It's the savings that we're realizing from last year's, the transition to some of those vans.
That's really in the athletic budget, so they did see that, but yeah, in our big bus transportation budget. But we are seeing a slight decrease in our special education transportation, but overall, big bus, yes.
The daily runs are in the contract and then all of the
Other pieces are
It's outside.
extra.
Yes, got it.
Mhm.
All right, so as far as public comment, if anyone in person has any public comment, please just raise your hand. We'll start with in-person public comment. So if you could just name and address, correct?
Full name, full address.
Full name and address. And for those online, if you'd like to make public comment, please put your name and address into the chat and we will go down the list. Yeah, of course.
Hey everyone, Brendan Zabricki, Town Administrator, Town of Essex. Just a question about the enrollment. I understand the enrollment figure that was used for the tentative budget, which was, I believe, 1081. But in order to understand what that comes from, there was still a lingering question, and I think you probably have the answer to this. So that 1081 was the October 1st, 2025 enrollment. The October 1st, 2024 enrollment, it's my understanding that the district is reporting 1,109, but at the state website, it may say 1,190. And I believe this has been raised before.
Yes,
Can you help me understand the difference between
yeah,
the two?
no, the total enrollment in district should be 1190.
Okay,
So
so
that will be a correction on this.
on the
this
well,
worksheet.
thing that you prepared, okay.
Yes, it was correct in last year's. Yeah, there was a correction in last year's and I ended up going back to the original one.
And so the reason I'm asking, if this ran at 1109, were there any numbers in how would it affect apportionment if the number was generated and it was a little bit short? Do we know whether this year's budget is affected by that calculation? Or was it only an error in this year's report?
I believe it was only an error in this year's tentative report. They were in the chart, not in. Right. it's
Not in the
chart,
calculation.
not in the
So
calculation.
it's an error in the chart.
Yes,
And the calculation, even from the year that we're in, is not using incorrect.
correct. Yeah.
All right, thank you very much.
And we will go back and double.
Yeah.
triple check that.
Thank you.
Yes. I know it's that whole report that's coming out.
We don't have any public comment in the chat, so.
Can I come?
Well, yeah.
Ben Buttrick, Finance Committee, Essex, 81B Choate Street. Thank you. I just had a few questions around the insurance. And so Pam, you had alluded to the fact that you're about to embark on a deep dive on the insurance, and I was wondering if you could just describe what the path forward is in terms of the health.
So we already, she went out to bid. We've already done that. Is that, are you understanding that we're about to go out to bid then, or are we?
No, I'm just, what, in the comments, you said we're about to do a deep dive on.
Let's just look at our options with our broker. We went out to bid for a new insurance broker.
For the broker. Yeah,
Yes.
and you retain the existing
Correct.
broker.
Yes,
Okay.
we did. Now we have discussions set up to see what our options might be. Do we go back out to bid with our current go out to market, I should say, to solicit other quotes from other, insurers. Last year that did not come up with anything. Basically, we had one quote and that was from our current provider. We could look at some restructuring options, but we are limited to what our each contract
Right.
mandates at this point. And there are some other things we could tweak. We could tweak the deductible, but we'd have to make up that portion of the deductible the employees are currently responsible for. We wouldn't change basically their out of pocket
So basically, any sort of plan redesign has to be done in conjunction with the collective bargaining.
Yes, it does.
Okay,
Doesn't
Um,
necessarily need to be on the same schedule. We can invite anyone to the table at any time. Obviously, in the middle of a contract cycle, though, there's going to be a lot more give and take to change the existing contract. Right, whereas opposed to beginning in June of 2026 or September of 2026, we'll be going back to the table to renegotiate for the next contract, and that is definitely, I think, on all of our radar, that this has been a huge cost and that the current numbers aren't working, and I would expect that they're not working for many families as well.
right.
Agreed.
Do we have a final accounting on the fiscal year 26 number? Because I remember it started at like 27 and I think it went to 25, and I was just wondering where.
Our final increase was 22.95.
22. Okay, and do we know why it's such a high number, say relative to surrounding districts in terms of?
It's slightly higher. It's not much higher than most of the surrounding districts at this point. Manchester was what, 19 last year? Oh,
I was wondering, like, the school districts, you know, like Hamilton, Wenham and Ipswich and other communities.
I believe they're saying the same thing as well.
And we have I mean, it's how we're performing and what our usage is in terms of types of cases and catastrophic cases.
Yeah. What sort of window is there between now and sort of as budget season progresses in terms of what the broker may come and say, all right, these are, you know, these are your options or not?
Usually, it typically settles end of March. And it doesn't really begin until mid-January.
Okay. Let's see.
We don't even, I mean, we don't have our own quote yet. We're using the Maya quote at 20%. So that's what we are, and this has been reported to us as what they are suggesting both towns carry.
Okay.
So we're all right, starting at the same point.
Yeah, it's crushing. I mean, 20, you know, going from 22 to 20%, if that, I mean, obviously it's a target number, but you're looking at a cumulative of, you know, 45% or high 40s. So it's
Terrible.
It is terrible, and it's impacting the district. It's also impacting. Significantly.
sure. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, we'll be
It's on our radar.
staying tuned. Okay.
Thank you, yours.
Contacts with the current federal government administration. Just-
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Just a reminder that if you've joined us online, and we would welcome any and all public comments, please put your name and address into the chat. Just double checking, is the chat active? We can turn the chat off, right? All right.
Yes.
Chat's active.
Still.
Okay.
Well, I mean, I did. Even to myself.
Any other comments, questions from person? Nina?
Yeah.
Yeah, please, of course.
Get it? As an applicant.
I've talked before. While we all can say that insurance is horrible, I guess I would look at the school committee to sort of be thinking of what.
Sorry, Nina.
Oh, sorry, Nina McKinnon. I'm on the finance committee, 1 Lowland Farm Road, Essex. Sorry about that. I just look at where are compromises and tough decisions being made. I can hear Superintendent Bowden say that, leveled services can mean things move around. The high school lost a social studies teacher to help Memorial, so things move around. A year ago at this time, there was a talk because this principal Mano gave, maybe it wasn't a year ago, but we knew that the middle school principal is leaving. At that time, it was going to be reviewed based on the budget constraints. We are having a duplication of that now. At what point are we going to have serious conversations to understand that we have to keep all options on the table? Because from the meeting that was had here March 28th, so before the towns approved this current year's budget, when the principal was still on the table as an option if the budgets hadn't been approved, because we were looking at how to save money. That is when Superintendent Bowden said, and I quote, and this is at the 1 hour mark, "We are studying and thinking about what we want the future structure to look like. We could develop and build a solid model of a combined middle school and high school. We could look at creative and smart changes." And finally, she stated, "If money is not the issue, of course, I would like to have a principal in the middle school." Money is the issue, and it's not an emotional issue, it's objective. And these year-over-year increases seem to always have an excuse, and healthcare is right now the driver. It's not just last year. I know that Lindsay talked about prior to being on the committee, how we've had 3 or 4 years of this. We've been using reserves since 2017, 2018. At what point does the school committee look at the budget and stop just saying, we'll do what is just being asked for? Because you support the entire communities. But and I can say that I've heard people say over the last couple of school committee meetings, the public voted because of the override. I voted for the override for 3 reasons. 1, so I could sit here and say I did it. 2, because so many people were saying that in Manchester, if Essex didn't support the override, that would make Essex Elementary rebuild that much harder. But I didn't support the override to make this philosophy that it's a constant year-over-year increase of 6 to 8%. That's not sustainable. And I know Michelle sits on a finance committee because we talked about it when we toured the Memorial. I'd almost ask like you sitting in the same seat as a community member, as someone who's managing fiscal things in other towns. It's not sustainable. And we hired a tremendous amount of people when we had the bubble years. And it keeps coming back to that same question. And I know we get different answers of the enrollment numbers have changed, whether they were misprinted or not. The enrollment, we have 300 less students. But when we look at the staff, we just don't see it. And honestly, and I know I'm kind of going at a few things, but as Jake said, I sort of look at, we're at another crossroads because we have a huge budget. Next year's budget's no smaller. Next year's budget's no smaller. The following year's no smaller. Someone in Manchester said at 2030, 2031, it's going to be $41 million projected budget. At what point do we take a holistic view? I've heard Jake ask since before he joined the committee, when do we look at the program of studies? When do we put options on the table? Because we can't just keep taxing both communities. And the difference this year is that Manchester also is now concerned with the taxes. It's not just putting it on Essex, but Manchester also has really big concerns too. And so at what point, healthcare is a fixed number. You'll negotiate, figure that out. But at what point are other options looked at? The hiring, like keep an interim if you need to, but hiring a principal in middle school, to go back to the original thing right now, are you thinking of any creative options? To find ways to save money in this budget?
Thank you for your comment. We appreciate it.
I want to be clear that we've gone over the enrollment conversation so many times, and it's extremely frustrating to offer the same answer every single time and be told that we're offering different answers. Enrollment is dropping. Staffing has remained consistent due to an increase in special education students. We've graphed it out. We've given tables that provide specific numbers in every single field. I'm sorry if there have been one or two typos on a table that is filled with hundreds of numbers, but it is exhausting to have the same conversation and then be told that we are providing different answers.
Is there anyone online that would like to make any public comment? Anyone new that's joined us? Brendan,
Just to follow up, I hope you don't feel like I was saying to the school committee that different answers were being provided.
No, that was a quote from Nina said that we had.
Okay,
answers.
thank you. Just wanted to clarify.
Maybe at some point we should have a conversation about the reasoning behind, or sort of the thought process for the middle school principal and why that has become less of a conversation, because I agree that it was part of our thought process last year, and I can wrap my head around why it is not part of my thought process, but it would probably be more helpful to hear from our administrators about how their time is being used this year and what capacity might feel like for that option.
Sure, we could redo that again. I thought we went pretty deep into that last year and the different increases that we would incur without having principal. But we can definitely review that again.
Can you explain that more specifically, review that more specifically? I think that's really helpful.
This is just public input time. This isn't part of
Yeah.
it.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. And, again, this is a tentative budget, so we haven't gotten to the point where we start to have deeper conversations about what the final budget will look like. We have, a 2-month period to do that. And as we do every year, we will continue to have extremely serious conversations about that, taking into account the impacts to all 3 of our main stakeholders, our students, our employees, and all of the taxpaying citizens in both of our towns. Without saying any additional comment, or is there any additional comments in person? Well, with that then, thank you everyone for joining us tonight. I really appreciate all of the public comment we asked in person. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. As we always do, we'll take that into account as we continue to develop the FY27 budget. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
I will take a motion to adjourn. All those in favor? See those. Thank you.